true. Yeah.
Okay. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the You Know Ball podcast. I am your host, Trill Bro Dude, and unfortunately, there were no basketball games this weekend. There was not a single basketball game.
Zilch. They're done. None of them. We couldn't watch any. Yeah.
There were no games on, so we have nothing to talk about today, unfortunately. Yeah. So we'll just talk about some other stuff, maybe some off-season preview, some finals matchup stuff. But before we get into that, if there were basketball games, you would have been able to go on Underdog Fantasy, our sponsor, use the promo code SLOP, SLOP, get a $100 deposit match bonus, and you would have been able to do Pick'em for your favorite player stats. Maybe if Joel Embiid played, you could have done higher on his points, but unfortunately he did not play in a game this weekend that absolutely destroyed my soul and broke my heart. If, Jason Tatum was on there, you could go lower on his points, and, maybe if there was an option for him to rip my soul out with a single shot, something like that could have happened. You could have put on that pick as well. You could do their fantasy drafts throughout the rest of the NBA season up through the playoffs. And we're going to be doing a lot with them throughout the rest of the season and into the playoffs. We even have some special stuff coming up with them once the playoffs do come around. So if you have not already signed up using the promo code SLOP, that's SLOP, get a $100 deposit match today. So Sam.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I just looked it up and there was a basketball game this weekend involving two of our favorite teams. I don't know how we missed this one, but
Kings Clippers.
Yes, double overtime.
Overtime.
Yep.
Russ, we got to eat crow. That's obviously what we're leading the episode with today. We got to
100%. Yeah.
The Russ thing, if every game is a 170 point double OT victory, I think he'll be pretty helpful for the Clippers.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, they lost actually, so maybe not as much. Sam was sick this weekend, so he was reading scores in bed. Like
I'm gonna cop. I actually was too sick to I fell asleep for most of this game. I'm going to be honest.
I could tell by your tweets because you tweeted a little bit and then you woke up at the end of it and started tweeting again. Yeah,
I only watched the last 5 minutes of the game.
Which, if you're a Celtics fan, a good time to watch.
I mean, look, man. Here's what I will say. Joel might be the MVP of the league. To be honest,
that might be the one silver lining that we can take from this outing was that I think that was the best game Joel's ever played against the Celtics, bar none. By a fairly wide margin. I mean, you have the Ennis Freedom game last year where he destroyed him at the end, and he was awesome in that game. But a lot of the things that pop up for Joel in these Celtics matchups, he seemed to at least have some sort of counter for them in a way that he didn't before, which was the one encouraging thing you can take. And look, we've talked about it all season. We think it's going to be a rock, paper, scissors thing where Sixers cannot beat the Celtics if they're healthy. But if the Sixers get a favorable matchup with maybe the Bucks, who have been red hot recently, maybe, either they have some bad health luck or the Sixers just get some good shooting luck or whatever it is, it's possible they could beat them. And now it looks like it's going to be, it's hard to project, but it does look like the Sixers will at least be able to, I think, hang in some Celtics games in a way. Because I had a hard time with this because I looked at it how do I want to come out of this game? My visceral reaction was heart ripped out of my chest. Mm-hmm. And, Tatum plays, like I said earlier, tall Terrence Ross for 2 quarters. And then, of course, he hits the big shot at the end. He had
that game was a perfect microcosm of the Jason Tatum experience. That was last year. He's either amazing or doo-doo ass. There is no in between.
First half was doo-doo ass. Second half was amazing.
Yeah. Oh, God.
And especially in the fourth quarter when he needed to be, obviously, so coming out of the game, I could have looked at it one way. I could have looked at it as, I didn't think the Sixers were going to win that game anyway. The other way you could look at it as is that, it was a close game that if Joel Embiid gets the shot off 0.2 seconds earlier, which I don't even think that enough people are talking about this. For the second time in three seasons, actually. Second time in 3 seasons, Joel Embiid has almost hit in the Suns game a few years ago, a full court shot, like a legitimate full court shot, went in and out as time expired to send the game to overtime, and hit almost a full court shot to send the game to overtime. And the reality of the situation was that neither shot ended up counting, and that, the Sixers obviously lose in heartbreakers in both of them. At the time, I believe it was against the Suns, who had the best record in the NBA. It's against the Celtics, who have, if not the best record, they're like tied with the Nuggets right now for like the best. I think they have the best record, but it's like very, very close with the Nuggets right now.
Yeah.
But long story short on this, the Sixers in the Joel minutes looked about as good as they possibly could. Tobias had a great game. Tucker has been fantastic for the Sixers, which has really been a revelation, is that in these big games, PJ Tucker steps up, has a big game. Harden, not as much. He was pretty inefficient. He had some moments where everything devolved into ISO ball. Harden and Embiid, when they get the one negative that I take from this game is, even with Harden and Embiid and winning the Embiid minutes, is that Harden and Embiid, and especially with a Doc-led team, is going to devolve into some ISO ball in bad moments when the other team basically can switch. And there are certain matchups where they're just going to be able to switch and fuck up the pick and roll and fuck up any ball move. Like Doc kept talking about after the game, ball movement. And I'm like, what is ball movement going to do when they're just switching everything? Like, we don't run off ball actions really. Like we don't have a warrior system. Like it's literally like, if the Joel Embiid and James Harden pick and roll doesn't work, everyone stands around and those guys try to score. Like that's kind of what the Sixers are. And, once again, encouraging things I took from this. I thought defensively they looked better. I thought that they competed pretty much throughout the whole game outside of the minutes that Joel sat. And this has always been the Sixers' problem, but it was definitely on full blast in this game. And if you watch the stream that I did on playback that night, the second that George Niang checked in, I said, we're going to blow this lead. Because you have to understand that there are certain matchups in the NBA. Like the Celtics have the benefit of having 7 or 8 guys that would be starters on most teams. I think that's their greatest advantage, is other than the fact that like when Tatum is on, he can play like an MVP. Mm-hmm. They also have guys for when Tatum has off nights that can come in off the bench and just expose these second units. And the Sixers drop off between their starters and their second unit is one of the largest in the NBA. And Doc Rivers needs to understand that. And look, I don't think the Sixers are going to beat the Celtics in the series. I don't. But there's some low-hanging fruit in these matchups that they will never be able to take advantage of with Doc as coach, because Doc will never change the things that he does during games, and rotations are by far his weakest point to me as a coach. Like I've been looking at this roster, and I don't think this roster is deep enough to really complain. I've criticized Daryl Morey for not being more aggressive. I think that he should have made more moves at the deadline. I think he should have made more moves when it was obvious what the issues with this team are. But I also think that in this game, as the coach, you need to realize who can play and who can't play. And you know that George Niang can't play in a Celtics matchup. And you know that Paul Reed is going to struggle in this matchup. And even when things were working, they would go away from them. And then the Celtics immediately, because the talent gap between our bench and your bench is so massive, they just completely took the game and they came back, and then they ended up winning it.
Yeah. I mean, so here's what I would say. Just because I agree with you. I also think that the Celtics would win a series, but I think that what makes this a disappointing game, I think, if you're a Sixers fan, is all the ingredients were there to like win that game. And if Doc had just had the rotations a little tighter, you guys could have got a win that could have at least made it close, where if you get if you get a series split with the Celtics for the season, that might count. Like that might come back to bite you in the ass, dropping the season series. Like, yeah. Now the Celtics have the tiebreaker, because
you can't catch them.
And I think we've said it all year. I think that's like something that's really important, more important to Philly than it is to Boston and Milwaukee. I think it's important to all the teams, but it's especially important to the Sixers to get the 1 seed and not have to only play one of those teams once. And ideally not have to play the Celtics at all, because again, I think it's kind of
the difference between winning that game is potentially being 3 games back. and 3 games back in the standings, and now with the potential to win the tiebreaker if you win the second game, which is also at home, and now they're essentially 5 games back, so they're never going to catch them.
Yeah, no, it's pretty much over now. And that's another reason it was a brutal loss in a lot of ways, I think. But I mean, I would say, we've been saying this all year, right? That I think Doc is kind of, it would be nice if Philly had a little more wiggle room, I guess. You know what I'm saying? But that's the bottom line is they don't, I'm going to be honest. I don't think Joe Mazzulla had his best coaching game.
No, I don't think I think he made some mistakes too.
Yeah.
I thought second half he made some adjustments, but in the first half he was not good.
Yeah. And I think this is but I think that's the difference between the Sixers and Celtics rosters is Joe Mazzulla can get away with fucking around and fucking some of this stuff up. I'm going to be honest. I had queued up for that last ATO. I had the "Why did you let him cook?" Because
SpongeBob kitchen on fire.
Yeah, SpongeBob kitchen on fire. Why did y'all let him cook for the Joe Mazzulla ATO? Because I was just, and I honestly do not think it was a very good play. It was.
Hold on, before you even get to that.
Yeah.
In the stream, there were Celtics fans watching the game with me on playback.
Yeah.
And I think his name was David. Shout out to David. Literally said, watching the way that you guys were set up, oh, this is the play from the end of the Cleveland game. Yeah. And called it out immediately and knew what it was.
Yeah.
And the fact that a fan that just watches games was able to call that out, I mean, in one way, you can look at it like that's not great, that it might make the Celtics look predictable, but I don't really think the Sixers were keyed in on what the play was. I don't even think that I think the advantage was honestly not created by the play. I think it was created by Tatum.
Exactly. No, that's exactly why. And by the way, Melton, even though Tatum crossed him over and pushed off a little, but I mean, who doesn't? Everybody.
Yeah. They're going to let guys get away with that on the last play of the game.
So but Melton kind of contested that pretty fucking well too. That was not a great shot.
Okay, look, I actually think Melton's defense on Tatum has been fine the 2 games because we've talked about this before with Tatum. What's the one? It's the greatest misconception in general with Jason Tatum. It's very similar to the Joel Embiid thing where it's you need to have a big center to guard Joel Embiid. And it's well, yes, you do, but you also need good team defenders who know when to double team, when to get into passing lanes, how to read his actions. And the Celtics do that better than any team in the NBA because they have a ton of great team defenders who have long arms that can get into passing lanes, that can send the double and kind of fluster him. Tatum, the thing is that people always talk about Tatum as if you need a 6'10" guy to guard him because he's so massive. No, you need a guy who can get into his handle and pressure the ball like Gary Payton did last year. Wiggins did a great job on him in the finals as well. At times in this game, Melton did good. Tobias, I think that there are ways to guard Jason Tatum, but on the last possession of the game, I would have, and I said this on the stream, I really would have liked Jalen McDaniels out there on him just because, look, Melton, even though he contested the shot, if Melton is McDaniels being 6'10" in that position, in that exact position, longer arms, more ability to contest a shot. Now, maybe he doesn't recover in the same way that Melton did on that possession, but it at least gives you a fighting shot to kind of be more in the play than if you have a 6'3" guy on him. In general, I think it's fine to have Melton guarding Tatum. On the last possession of the game, when you know that it's probably going to be a shot, I would prefer someone that's a little bit bigger that has longer arms to be the guy. But look, I can nitpick all this shit. Tatum made a great play and hit a big shot. He does that a lot. He does that over guys who are the same size as him. He does it a lot in these. I think someone put up a stat that in the last 10 seconds of a game, Tatum has I think the highest efficiency field goal percentage of any player in the last 5 years or something. It's 52%. He's been really good in those big moments. But sorry for cutting you off.
No, it's fine. My thing, because I'm seeing people being the double bigs lineup got killed, and it's well, yeah, they got killed. They were playing fucking Joel Embiid.
Yes.
That's why. And Bill on his pod had he was crying about you got to go small, you got to make PJ Tucker work, and it's that's fine. I'm fine with that. If you want to make that the case, but it's not. He was also saying it was a 1-to-1 that Derek White and Malcolm Brogdon went out there and like were huge in plus minus. And it's like, yeah, you know why? Because Joel fucking Embiid was in the game at that point.
Joel wasn't in the court. Yeah. And also the lineups that Doc ran for the large majority of those minutes were horrible defensively. They were layup lines. And like, once again, the Celtics have the advantage to going to their bench and having the sixth man of the year maybe, and then Derek White, who's been playing like a fucking all-star recently.
Maybe our third or maybe even second best player like recently. Like, yeah.
All right, so I don't know if you saw this, but did you see Jaylen Brown's quote after the game, which some of the fans that got kicked out and they asked him about it?
No, what was that?
Oh, and he said basically he said that there were some fans that were being aggressive and they were being idiots during the game. And they said to him, he said, one of the fans told me he wished that I tore my ACL. And I was like, absolute fucking idiots, like, obviously. Yeah. And I was like, it's even dumber because if you actually followed the game, you would be wishing injury on Derek White, not Jaylen Brown.
You didn't use it well.
Learn ball, dude.
You're getting checked out. Like, at least put the bad voodoo on someone else. What are you doing?
I do think that's the big. I know. Look, the Brogdon edition helps for sure.
Yeah.
I think the biggest difference between this year's Celtics team and last year's Celtics team is that Derek White is back to being really, really good. Like, that's the major difference.
If he does this in the playoffs, Celtics fans get mad at me because I pretty firmly when I asked for a scapegoat about last year's Celtics, I go to Derek White shot like fucking.
He was terrible. Yeah,
30% in the playoffs, and like. You can't have your sixth man doing that, you know, like, and
to be fair, you also did say Tatum was in doo-doo mode in the finals as well.
Yes. I also do kind of, I'm pretty hard on Tatum. I do think he was like kind of fucked. I know people don't want to hear this about the Tatum shoulder injury. It's a Sixers podcast. No one wants to hear me make excuses, but anyway, but here's what I will say though, is like Derek White's like really good. He should make all defense. He's basically playing the way that that Bill seems to think Drew Holiday is playing when he put Drew Holiday as he says he's going to put Drew Holiday as his second team All NBA guard. Did you hear that part?
Yeah, he said he was going to put. Who did he say he was going to? Donovan Mitchell. He said he was going to put him over.
And Halliburton and like all of these other guys who are just.
Drew has been really, really good.
Yeah. Like awesome. Insane thing to say. Like, I'm sorry. Like, those guys are not like the same. I'm sorry. But anyway.
Derek White is the best rim protecting guard in the NBA, which is something that is and as we've said before, one of the things that's going to make the Celtics really hard to beat in the playoffs is that lineup versatility, is the fact that you have two guards in Derek White and Marcus Smart who can switch and protect the rim. That is like unheard of, to be able to have that kind of versatility on your defense where you can have multiple rim protectors at all times at multiple different positions, guards, forwards, and centers. Like it's unheard of.
Yeah.
But like, and I understand it was a little bit of recency bias for Bill because Drew had 33, 4, and 5.
Exactly.
He's been really, really good. Like I think Drew's been awesome. I'm not worried about Drew in the regular season. It's the playoffs where I worry about Drew's offense a little bit.
Yeah, he's had a huge like 14 game winning streak. I just think it's like crazy to like put him over like Harden and like these other guys. Like it's just a little crazy like early on. Anyway, I don't know. I think that game, you know, Celtics fans are going to be crying about Joel Embiid and the free throws. I think Sixers fans are going to take issue with Marcus Smart doing Marcus Smart things. So
no, I was fine with Marcus Smart in that game. I wanted them to play more. I was like, can we play Smart 35 minutes in this game? It's the worst game I've ever seen him play. but that's the issue that I said was like, are you concerned? And I am a little bit, is the fact that Tatum and Smart can have bad games. Two of your best players can have bad games and you guys can still win like that. Yeah. And I know Harden and Maxey struggled, but like we've seen those kind of games more often. I mean, watching the Sixers, I've seen a lot of bad Maxey games this year. And like Harden less so, but he does have a playoff history, especially in elimination games where he can kind of phone things in. But long story short on this, the Sixers need to focus on getting first off, the rotations for the rest of the regular season. Fine. If you want to do the 10-man rotation thing, 11-man, I don't really care. It's the regular season. Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
He shortened the rotations for this game somehow and still had 2 unplayable players out there.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I feel so frustrated with Morey and Doc in general is obviously I've talked about Isaiah Joe ad nauseum. Losing him for nothing really sucks. Could have used him in a game like this, but more so the fact that we have, Jalen McDaniels was playing mostly with, and it goes back to the all bench thing with me. And it might not necessarily be all bench now, but even Celtics Matt asked me, he was like, wait, I'm rewatching some of this and looking at the box score. Did he have a stretch where he didn't have Harden or Embiid out on the court? And I'm like, he does this every game. There are stretches where you don't have one of your 2 best players, and it's not like the Celtics where you're built to do that. The Celtics could easily pull both the Jays off and still have a comparable, easy, nice-fitting, good lineup out there.
Yeah, you can just have Malcolm Brogdon do his version of caveman ball where he just line drives and fucking,
sure,
gets to the rim,
Yeah, and that was one of the things I was talking about. I don't disagree with Bill's assessment that going small against the Sixers might be beneficial in a certain capacity to draw Joel out of the lane, because we saw that later in the game. Mazzulla made the adjustment. Mazzulla went 5 out at the end. And
Randall's out there instead of Rob. Yeah. Exactly.
And that was the adjustment that was made, that the second that the Sixers overhelp, which they tend to do, and that's their biggest problem on defense, is they overhelp, and everyone sees it every game. PJ Tucker overhelps 1 second on Tatum, which we were all we're screaming why are you overhelping on a guy who's been struggling? Just let him cook. And he finds Al Horford for a wide open 3. Harden has to make the decision between Jalen, who's a great corner 3-point shooter, and Horford at above the break. He chooses Jalen, and Horford hits the open 3. Those are the kind of adjustments that throughout a game, Mazzulla will make those adjustments at least, and he'll stick with them. Doc made the adjustment, actually. So what happened was Paul Reed was playing at the 5 with George Niang and Tyrese Maxey, which we all said on the stream is not going to work, because Paul can really only work in lineups with really good switchable defenders that can play help defense. And Maxey and Niang are just going to get absolutely cooked at the point of attack, which the Celtics targeted over and over and over. And that led to Paul not being able to recover, layup line. They make the adjustment, and they actually say, fuck the defense, fuck trying to hold that together. Let's just go 5 out and try to do what they're doing to us, basically. Yeah. Put PJ Tucker in, and it worked. And then in the second half, instead of going back to a lineup like that, he put Paul Reed in again, and it happened again. And it's Paul Reed, Niang, Maxey, Jaden McDaniels, look at their plus minuses. They were all negative 20s in 10 minutes because of these lineups. So the one thing I will take from this is that if there is a one silver lining of all of this, and once again, I do think the Celtics will beat the Sixers in a series, but I think that Sixers might be able to steal a game or 2 now in a way that I didn't think they could before this game. And they have competed in the other games. The second game didn't really matter because the Celtics didn't have half their team. But my long, short rant of this is that as much as there are certain players on this team that I don't think are particularly good, like Daniel House, for example. Daniel House, we traded for Daniel House to get him involved with James Harden, right?
Yeah.
They traded for him because he has the history with Harden. He's been good with Harden. If you look at regular season playoffs with Harden, he's a +8, a +7 per 100 possessions when they're on the court together. This season, when Harden and House share the floor, they're a +9. They have played 120 minutes together all season. Yeah. And then House has essentially been useless without Harden in Houston, everywhere he's went, except for the Jazz in the playoffs last year, where he was actually pretty decent in 15, 20 minutes a game for them. The Sixers need to realize, hey, there are certain matchups where George Niang just is not athletic enough to hang. So bench him, go smaller, put Tobias, McDaniels, and House out there in some sort of wing rotation, put PJ at the 5, and just hope that spacing these guys out and making it so that you have more athletes out there that you could at least hang with an athletic, smart team like the Celtics. So rant's over. I really do think that they should consider trying more lineups out down the stretch. One of the guys that I threw up at the idea of signing before this game was Will Barton. And I'm just like, at least Will Barton's 32 years old and can shoot threes and is like, in theory, a wing-sized defender, even though he's cooked athletically. Like, maybe Doc will play him over Niang. Like, they spent the entire deadline and then the buyout market trying to replace George Niang, and they're still playing him. Like, you don't have to play him. That's why you got McDaniels. That's why you signed House. You have the solution. George Niang is shooting 30% from three this month. Like, what are we doing? It drives me insane, and I can't. And once again, I think that the talent gap is too big. That, like, even if we had Eric Spoelstra or Ty Lue or Will Hardy, I still think the Celtics would win in a series. But I think with a creative coach, you could close the gap and make it like a 7-game series, like the Heat did last year.
It gets a lot scarier. Let me just say, like,
that's what I'm saying.
I mean, like that. The Celtics in the past, even when we had good coaches, like good coaches have been the bane of this iteration of the Celtics for a long time. Like, good coaching, knowing what you're doing, like good scouting. That's why Eric Spoelstra always scares the living shit out of me. Like, he like last year, the Heat should have lost that series in 5 games. It was a shot wasn't even close. It was like a shot. They were a shot away from going to the finals.
Honestly, they should have won the Bucks game in 6 games too.
Yeah, bubble series. Like, if you have, if you can't just there are things the Celtics can, like, you can kind of attack the Celtics on, because they do have things like pressuring guys, like turnovers. The Celtics will get sloppy if you have more composure. I think the Celtics have one of the highest ceilings of any team. I'm pretty comfortable with them, like, overall as being like title favorite. It's also not crazy to me that they could absolutely lose a 2nd-round series this year. Like, just because they do have these diaper disaster games and they don't have the floor of, Brad Stevens ATOs and stuff, or Ime Udoka calling them all bitches and refocusing everybody.
So the best thing was the Celtics fans said, we were talking about the Celtics late game offense.
Yeah.
And they said, Mazzulla will at least call plays down the stretch. They were like, Ime at the end of games his best play was just don't be a bitch.
Yeah. No, he would literally and by the way, that works. Which was with this funnier. Yeah, which was even funnier. No, Joe, when Joe didn't call the timeout in that stretch, I'm normally very charmed by it. Maybe it was the sickness talking. I was like, I am going to unalive myself.
Oh, it actually felt like the Sixers were going to come back.
If I were on the stream, I might have just knocked my camera over and pretended that I dropped out of connection. So, I was so mad.
It was the two things that we both. It's the two things that we've both been trying to get better at this season, which is you've basically been talking about it's funny when he doesn't call timeouts, right? And then with me, it's the Sixers, everyone blows leads. It's fine. You know what I mean? It's the modern, I keep saying the modern NBA. Don't worry about it. The Lakers were the Lakers were down 27 yesterday and they won. They came back. It's the modern NBA. I have to hold on from talking shit on other teams during games because there are so many comebacks now. Like the Hornets and the Heat were playing the other day. And I was like, LOL, Heat, they're going to lose again, 2nd straight game. And then they come all the way back. They ended up losing the game. But my whole point on this is there's so much variance in today's game that teams blow leads all the time. But then I'm in the middle of a stream and I'm watching Doc do things that I'm like, look, I'm not an NBA coach. I couldn't do anything that Doc does other than literally just picking rotations that are just kind of simple, but just literally to me seem like the easiest part of the job. I'm going to be honest. I think that most people could figure out a way. Most people that are just somewhat knowledgeable basketball could figure that out. And it's everything else that I wouldn't be able to do at all. But it drives you insane when you're watching the game and you're like, I know what works. I watch every game. I'm obsessed. And I'm sitting here don't play this guy. Don't play him.
You should, if you're a coach who's not interested in that, Doc, You should just like have the calculator rats build you a little fucking algorithm that like does it for you.
There you go.
Like easy. Like
just have Sam Cassell. Literally just go to Sam Cassell or Dan Burke or Dave Yorger or whoever is on the bench and just be like, hey, you're picking the rotations. I'll do everything else. It's like we have offensive coordinators to call plays in the NFL. Yeah. Like, why not just fucking have one guy on the coaching staff do this that's really good at it and pick it for the matchup? Like, Sam Cassell's going to be a head coach.
It's very, very funny to think of me as a head coach where I'd have to like hire a guy to like be mean to the guys because I'd be like too scared. Like, I just have command no respect. I'd be like, hey guys, we got to start practice now. I was a little embarrassed. I just gotta like hire a Terry Tate office linebacker to come in. And
no, you just need to sign Patrick Beverly, who just have
someone they respect.
Yeah, exactly. Have a sociopath on your team, and then you can do I'll call the rotations guys, and then we have Pat Bev here who will literally just come in and be like, if we lose tonight, I'm slicing all of your tires after the game.
By the way, that's like the dream. Calculator rats get a lot of shit wrong about basketball because they just like cannot understand how much of the game is like being missed.
Human emotion and
human emotion, and
which even I do sometimes. I admit.
Right. That is like the one part that you like could 90% on a computer generate is the rotations.
Exactly.
like
pretty hands off. I feel like that's like one of the things that, especially when you and it might take some. There might be certain elements of it that aren't qualitative, quantitative, that are more like you actually have to be like understand matchups and shit. But like, I don't think there's a coach in the NBA that would look at George Niang shooting 30% in the month of February and go, yeah, no, we need him out there for the Celtics game. It just drives me absolutely insane. And part of it is on Daryl Morey too for not having a good enough roster. So that's another part. Morey does not get off scot-free here. He's also a big part of this. And maybe Doc has some hand in this, but you're the GM at the end of the day. Grow some fucking balls and get some guys that can play in real fucking games. Okay, so did you catch on the Bill pod where he was talking about how Jalen McDaniels? Oh, we talked about this. Jalen McDaniels was like not ready for this. I thought Jalen McDaniels was fine. He played in some bad lineups, so his on-offs. But like he played decent defense on Tatum. He got some rebounds. Like he was fine. Like
I was going to ask you. I thought he did pretty well in the parts that I saw. To be honest, I was going to say
he's been solid.
He did not look lost at all to me. I don't know what Bill was talking about.
He's been totally solid. Yeah. He compared him to Jared Vanderbilt, who he was like, then you got Jared Vanderbilt, who could have helped all these teams, and I was like. And
every team wanted him. That's not a secret. Everybody knew he was good. Danny Ainge just gave him to the Lakers for some fucking reason.
The Sixers, the Blazers, the Celtics, all these teams wanted Jared Vanderbilt. Like this was not, and this wasn't a thing where it was like you could have just got Jared Vanderbilt. Danny Ainge valued that first round pick from the Lakers, and he wasn't going to let a deal fall through because he might have gotten the Celtics first, which is like the 30th pick in the draft or whatever. And even then, I don't even know if that pick was available. But my long story short here is like everyone wanted Jared Vanderbilt. Two, Jared Vanderbilt, who has been we've said is one of the more underrated players in the NBA, is like he's never played in big games before. He's played in one, and his whole thing was like you need to have guys who have played in big games. And like, yes, that does help. That's obvious. Like part of the reason why the Celtics are probably as good as they are is because they got a ton of experience early in their career playing in these big games. But the other part of that to me is the fact that Jared Vanderbilt is just better than Jalen McDaniels at basketball. Like that's just like kind of like he's a better NBA player, and that's why he's been so good for the Lakers.
Well, it's not like the Lakers went, would we rather have the 32nd pick in the draft or one that could be like third? Or fifth, I guess, whatever.
Sure.
Yeah, look, fucking. Yeah, I that drives me insane. All the like Jared Vanderbilt discourse, like everyone was surprised that he's good. Everyone fucking knew he was good.
Everyone did. We all called this.
Maybe I'm just trapped in a bubble because every time you and I did fucking trade deadline, we were always trying to get fucking Jared Vanderbilt
on the Sixers and Celtics. Yeah. Exactly. We were always like, we should just be on a good team. Like, why is he a bad team? Like, and the other thing is, I think that a lot of the times with the media shit, and it's not Bill doesn't do this necessarily, but a lot of and I would be frustrated if I were like a Timberwolves fan and I'm like, we knew this guy was good. We had him on our team, and now he has one good game for the Lakers. And it's like Jared Vanderbilt, the hidden gem of the NBA. It's like NBA Central posting his stat line. Like, I'm like, we had him on our team. I knew he was good. And now the Lakers reap the benefits of this excellent role player who fits on a lot of teams because he's good at basketball, folks. Yeah. And he's 23 years old. Like, God, I'm so mad they got him in that trade. Like, it's so annoying.
Danny Ainge is I hate him now. He's out of here. I don't think he lost all his goodwill for me. That's the exact same. Drafting Jason Tatum is the exact same as trading the Lakers.
I think Jared Vanderbilt could have left.
Yeah, exactly.
But I actually had this thought because remember my first conspiracy theory on this was that like they want to help the Lakers get to the playoffs and whatever. Yeah. I was like, why would a lifelong Celtic, who's a front office guy for a Celtic, like, why would he help the Lakers in any capacity? Well, one, I do think he really did value that pick, but two of the teams we knew that were interested in Vanderbilt were the Heat and the Sixers. We at least know that much. Yeah. It's possible that Danny is like, I don't think Danny would give a fuck about this because he traded Donovan Mitchell to the Cavs, keep in mind, which like makes the Cavs way better and can compete with them. But he also doesn't have any invested interest in helping the Celtics enemies. I'll just leave it at that. The conspiracy trail is feeling as though he doesn't want to help the enemies of the Heat and the.
I don't know about the Sixers end of it. I do know that Danny Ainge and Pat Riley.
Oh right, I forgot about that. Yep.
Yeah, they're never making a trade. Yeah, they would never make a trade with each other. It would have to be like through like back channels or something like that.
Yeah, they're like.
Danny Ainge values children and grandchildren, and Pat Riley is for harvesting them for their sweet, sweet blood and adrenochrome. So they will never see eye to eye. Yes, the Mormons are the good guys in my analogy. Multi-level marketing is better than not hurting children. I gotta say.
A reminder that this is a comedy program.
Yeah, allegedly. Allegedly.
That is filled with jokes that are not in any capacity. Let's have a little disclaimer here. No.
Yeah, they're jokes unless the audience wants to do their own research and come to their own conclusions about Pat Riley. But it's a joke when I say it. I'm just saying. If a joke were to lead you to some other information, perhaps addresses, names.
I can't talk shit until the Sixers and Heat have finished their home and away this week because after the last game, Jimmy Butler was pissed that they lost again. And I need the Sixers to at least split this because the Heat are looking like they could be potentially on their deathbed. The last time I said that, they went to the Eastern Conference Finals and beat the Sixers in the playoffs. So I can't have that happen again. So I'm gonna hold off on the Heat slander until it's obvious that they're out of here.
They're in the ground. Yep.
So there were a lot of. This was the best weekend in the NBA that I can remember in the regular season and years.
Glad I missed it being so fucking sick. It looked cool.
It was awesome. It was real. And
the only game I saw some of was Clippers Kings because I was awake at fucking 2 a.m.
because you couldn't sleep.
Whenever that fucking game was on because I had been sleeping all day. Yeah.
You're like, am I having a fever dream or are these teams in the 170s right now?
I'm literally like looking at my phone while I'm like hunched over the toilet. I'm like, oh my god, like I gotta check this game out.
175. Oh my god,
let's go. Yeah.
So. There were a few crazy games. Obviously, I already mentioned the Lakers had their insane comeback against the Mavs, which, oh boy, the Mavericks are 1-3 with Luka and Kyrie. Not looking great so far. Hopefully, Maxi Kleba can help because Jesus Christ. Another thing, the Clippers obviously lost both of the games with Russell Westbrook, but the one thing I can take from that is that, Kawhi's back. Kawhi looks like Kawhi again. That's really the only thing I would take from these games from the Clippers other than the fact that Terrence Mann needs to obviously start and Russell Westbrook should be a bench guy again. Even though actually I think you could make the argument Marcus Morris has been considerable. I actually think Westbrook has been pretty decent in his first 2 games with the Clippers so far. And then God damn, there were so many Bucks, Suns, whatever. But the big standout, obviously, even though it's funny, we're talking about all these teams that are like actually contenders. Like at oh, by the way, the Nuggets got destroyed by the Grizzlies the other night. You won't hear about that because you'll have the Men in Black thing whenever Jokic and the Nuggets lose a big game.
It's fine.
Don't worry about it. And then, but the huge, obviously, like historical level performance this weekend was from a team that most people wouldn't consider contenders at all, especially anymore after the trade deadline, and that is the Blazers. Dame scored 71 points, the highest efficiency field goal percentage, 81% he shot efficiency field goal percentage from the field in that game for any 60-point game. And he scored 71 against the Rockets, who, look, I keep hearing these rumors about James Harden going back to the Rockets. If this happens,
power to him if that's actually what he's thinking. Like,
if this happens, I never want to hear anything again for the rest of my life about how much it matters to win. I'm sorry. I know that's your thing, Sam. I don't want to hear it because James Harden obviously would not value winning if he's going back to the team that put on one of the more pathetic performances I've ever seen. And don't get me wrong, Dame was amazing. Dame was on a fucking heater. He could not miss, but it was pathetic defense. It felt like the Blazers only let them hang because they wanted Dame to stay in the game. And he honestly probably could have scored 80 if he really wanted to. In the beginning of the third quarter, he became more of like a distributor because they were like sending blitzes at him and stuff. But incredible performance by Dame. And it just had me thinking, like, Dame is now having in what I think is maybe the best year of his career. And it feels like it's going to waste. But I'm going to give the Blazers a little bit of benefit of the doubt here because we know this deadline, the only stars that were available were Kyrie and KD, and they both had specific locations that they wanted to go to. KD ended up in his place. Kyrie, not so much, but I don't blame the Blazers not for taking that risk. I don't really think that was the move they should have made. I don't think they had a chance at KD. But earlier in a Patreon episode in this season, we did talk about the Blazers being the next team to essentially make a big trade, right?
Yeah.
And
we had one guy in mind in particular.
Kevin Durant was the guy that we thought all aligned. And we were under the assumption that Durant wasn't going to get traded during the season. This was under the assumption that we were going to wait until next offseason. And if that was the case, then we were like, it's possible Chris Paul's too old at that point to make a big splash. And there were a lot of complications with it for sure. And we thought that the Blazers had a good chance.
It's still insane to me they traded him in the middle of the season. Bill Jacoby and House did like a little draft, and that didn't go in the top two, that Kevin Durant got traded midseason, which is insane to me. You could say Kyrie blew the season up, demanded a trade, whatever. That's not that weird. I thought they would at least hang on to KD for let everyone load up and figure it out in the offseason. I get that they wanted to do right by him, but that's still crazy to me. Also, by the way, shout out to my guy Jacoby for saying, who doesn't like the Grizzlies? This is crazy. No, brother, I've been
a day one hater.
I have been a day one hater. I've said they're corny from the jump. We're all figuring it out. The rest of the league is catching up.
Yeah, you were ahead of your time for sure. Yeah. I caught that as well, and I thought that was funny because I was watching the Sixers and Grizzlies play the other night, and I was like, I hate them so much. I had never felt that rage because we haven't really had a lot of big games against the Grizzlies. Yeah. And then we had one, and I was like, I get it now. I now hate I basically hate everyone on the team except I think I like Desmond Bane a lot. Yeah. I love Desmond Bane.
He's the least defensive. It's just they're not good, but hanging games.
They're not good enough to be as cocky as they are, which was their whole point. It would be honestly, it would be like if the Sixers walked around and did that without ever having made a conference finals. As Bill said on the podcast, you got to make a conference finals at least before you start talking shit like you're the new kids on the block.
Honestly, everyone's killing Trae Young for all his coach shit. At least he fucking made a conference finals and went to Game 6.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, they're 2-0 since they got their new coach. I don't know if you caught that.
I did see that. I wanted to talk about I had that in my notes. Like,
it's incredible.
We got to start our little tracker for the new blood coach.
And they haven't even gotten Quinn Snyder yet, who's like the real coach. It's still Joe Prunty. So that's I
assume they did say they're hiring him. I assume he's going to take over pretty much
soon. I think like this week. Yeah. So, but
huge for Miami. They're going to get a lot of basketball related income.
Down the turnpike.
This is a joke.
Down the turnpike.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Rick Ross's business is going to be booming.
There's a lot of Coast Guard activity in Miami here ever since Quinn took over. Man, I feel like those buoys out there didn't used to be that big. Should we go out there and check them? No? Okay. There's some guys in boats. They say we should leave that alone.
Okay. Small businesses will flourish. So yeah, out of all these games, I'm not really going to make any grand, like, sweeping proclamations from this past weekend. I'm trying not to overreact as much. I still think that the Suns didn't have KD. The Bucks looked awesome without Giannis, which good for them. But I'm not going to take a ton from that, even though they've won a lot of games recently. I kind of have the same idea for every team that I've had throughout the season. I don't really think that anything's been shaken by the this past weekend. My faith in the Mavericks being a competitive team might be a little bit shaken, a little tiny bit, but I'm also willing to let Luka play himself back into shape before because he looks like he's literally two humans now somehow, and I don't know if you saw the conspiracy theory about Kyrie throwing that game.
No, what?
Well,
why?
One of the last possessions. So first off, Kyrie was kind of lackadaisical, let's say, in that game, to say the least.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I've never seen Kyrie Irving be lackadaisical in a big game for my beloved Boston Celtics.
And at the end of the game, there was a play where the Mavericks were within one possession, and he essentially was trying to inbound it to Luka and almost threw the ball in the backcourt. But it was not one of those possessions where you can throw the ball in the backcourt. Oh, so Luka had to catch it and throw it back to save it, and then the Lakers got it, and the game was over, basically. This was at the end of the game. So everyone was like, is he throwing the game? Because it's against the Lakers and whatever. So I still have not been completely shaken in my faith in them. I want to see the Suns with KD. I need to see the Clippers a little bit more now that Kawhi looks more like himself and that Russ is kind of being integrated. And honestly, one of the takeaways I did take from that Clippers game.
Got some late breaking slot, by the way. Center Nerlens Noel and the Detroit Pistons have completed a contract buyout.
Who are the teams?
Oh, that just
come on!
This is
he has to sign in the next 24 hours, or he can't play in the playoffs.
Okay. Yeah.
It's March 1st.
No teams yet. Yeah. Say no teams. I'm sure there's going to be a follow-up tweet here in a second with
It's always when we're recording now. We need to record at this time.
Yeah.
I would. Okay. Look.
We did miss the Lindy Waters slop earlier.
Oh, what did he get a real contract?
Yeah. It's just a two
converted two-way. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I will say this much. Daryl, if you're listening, we have one more prorated vet minimum, and I've shit on him for over prioritizing the backup center position instead of just trying to improve the rest of the roster around Joel. But if there's one guy that I would be fine with that's a backup center, Nerlens he's familiar with the organization. He's played here before. He's friendly with Joel. And I think that he's at bare minimum better than Dwayne Dedmon. And if that's the case, cut Dwayne Dedmon, please. And you have one more unless Will Barton's a possibility.
When the Celtics were looking for backup before we got Muscala, I was like, he was a guy on my short list.
I think he's going to go to the Nuggets.
Wait, who better than Zeke Naji though? They already have Thomas Bryant.
Yeah, they got Thomas Bryant at the deadline. Who else was it that is looking for a backup center?
Well, probably the Heat, I would guess.
Dallas. He's already played in Dallas too.
Oh yeah, that went bad, wasn't that?
Actually, the Heat
story.
Yeah. The Heat signed Cody Zeller. If they waived Cody Zeller, he did play in the game for them the other night, but they should absolutely be in on Nerlens. I mean, look, I don't think Nerlens is good anymore, but all right, hold on.
It should be illegal for the Zellers and Plumlees to be in the league at the same time. Because I was like, wait, didn't he just get traded to the Clippers? And then it's like, oh, that's
it's a Plumlee.
Yeah, it's a Plumlee.
I actually was going to bring up Plumlee. The one thing I always forget about Mason Plumlee is I watched him play against Jokic in the Nuggets last night. I always forget he's like actually really athletic.
Yeah, he's actually a crazy athlete.
Yeah. Just like he just does not look like he would be. He was like doing some shit, and I was like, damn! I always forget that Mason Plumlee's like kind of he's got vertical pop. Like
I watched a lot of him. Nice. I watched a lot of him live when I lived in New York because he was on the Nets. And like he's like he was like a legitimate above the rim player. Like it's like very weird. Like he was like really good too. They traded him I think it was for D'Angelo Russell. Like he was like a really
that was Brook Lopez. They traded for D'Angelo Russell.
No, you're right.
Yeah, it was Brook Lopez and the pick that was Kyle Kuzma.
What did they trade him for? They traded him to the Nuggets for something.
No, they traded him to the Blazers.
Was it the Blazers?
Because he played for the Blazers, and then the Blazers traded.
Was it Alan Crabb? Was he part of the Alan Crabb fucking?
No, I don't think he was. I think those were years apart. I think so.
I'm gonna find this out. We're doing the naming some guys part of our podcast.
Yes, let's go. Naming guys. We're gonna figure out where Mason Plumlee Nets trade.
Yeah,
it was because I remember it was a 4-team deal. Pat Connaughton was also involved in that deal. For Steve Blake and Rondé Hollis-Jefferson. Oof.
Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, that's who it was.
That's tough. And you traded Mason Plumlee and Pat Connaughton, who both good NBA players. like that's a tough look. For
also, looking this up is how I found out that Bontemps used to work for the Post, which is incredible knowledge. I had no idea.
Oh my God. Could you imagine Bontemps writing Post articles?
He probably did the headlines. Like he probably did the back page headlines. That's how he got so mean. That's how he cut his teeth writing the mean headlines on the back.
It's like when you hear about Charlemagne the God, the hit you're like, how did he become such an asshole? And then you're like, oh, he used to work for Wendy Williams. He was like her sidekick. He learned from the best, dude. Yeah, learned from the queen.
Good, yeah. God, fuck. Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, safe travels to Nerlens. I think we might still have roster spots. So
I think it's probably going to be a team that needs a backup, but I can't think of any teams that really need a backup right now.
The Lakers could probably use them, to be honest. Even though they don't have a lot of bigs, you know.
The Lakers, they have Mo Bamba. They just traded for Mo.
That's right. I forgot.
He's actually been pretty solid and then they can always go small with Vanderbilt too. So, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that they waited until the day before it happened for this news to come out. But so I guess we'll figure out where we'll figure out probably while we're recording the teams that are interested in him.
Waiving Nerlens Noel because you signed Marvin Bagley, traded for James Wiseman.
I watched
have Jalen Durant on your team.
I watched maybe the grossest game of basketball I've ever watched this weekend, which was the Pistons versus the Raptors. Ooh. It was a noon game on Saturday, and people were like, "You need to be institutionalized for this."
That is a cry for help.
I was like, you know what? My back hurts. I can't really move today. I'm gonna watch Pistons Raptors, and I'm gonna be honest. James Wiseman is still as lost as he's ever been on defense. Showed some things on offense. Marvin Bagley, though, was hooping in this game.
Let's go. I mean, I got Marvin, really.
Yeah, he had, dude, I was watching. I was like, now Bagley still, once again, he's Bagley, but like, he had some, and the Raptors aren't the hardest team in the NBA to guard. He had 21 points and 18 rebounds on 9 of 19 from the field. Like, he was legitimately really good in that game. And I was like, good for Marvin Bagley.
That's why you bring in Jakob Poeltl. That's why you trade a first-round pick for Jakob Poeltl. You had to buy at the deadline. You had to get that guy in there. So Marvin Bagley could put an almost 20-20 on your ass.
Yeah, and the Raptors somehow – that was a very close game, by the way. The Raptors pulled away at the end. And the Raptors, if you're keeping track right now, the Raptors are currently they're 9th in the East. So total chance that, like, if the play-in started, there's a chance the Raptors don't even make the playoffs at all. Like, I would say it's more likely that they lose in the play-in. All right, my cat is now knocking over my light. Can you stop? Thank you. Sorry.
My light went out.
Let's go. Good timing. Stop it. Stop. Get down. So, yeah, he's I know he's on his bullshit. You can see his face now on the corner of my, he's ridiculous.
We love cats, folks, don't we?
We absolutely love cats. We support them at Uniball. So, all right, little derailment there. But the Dame game had me thinking. He's now 3rd in estimated plus minus in EPM.
Right.
One of the, like, I would say probably the best season of his career, if not top 2 or 3. The Blazers are currently in the play-in themselves, or they're at least fighting for a play-in spot. So odds are that they're going to end up missing the playoffs. You know, look, once again, they're in that jumbled West. They're the 11 seed right now, but they're 2 games back from the 6 seed. So who knows? Maybe they make a run and they have a nice low play. They're not winning a playoff series this year. They're just not. Like, unless they get the Kings in that favorable matchup that I think a lot of teams are going to be hunting for down the stretch here, I think that they are going to end up being a play-in team at best, maybe a scrappy first-round team, but this team does not really have any, like, massive aspirations. But it did get me to thinking, who could they be possibly targeting this offseason to pair with Dame? Because I know that everyone keeps saying, oh, well, Dame just wants to have a competitive team around him, a young team. I know Dame wants to win a title still, and he keeps talking about it, and he keeps hinting at them making a big move this summer, and they did get an extra first in that Josh Hart trade. So they have the Knicks first-round pick, which actually doesn't look like it's going to be that good. If the draft were today, it would be the 22nd pick in the draft, which good on the Knicks for being smart enough to lottery protect that in case it kind of fell apart. It's going to end up being a late first, but it is another thing that they can move in a trade this summer. And then they also have Anthony Simons, Shaedon Sharpe, Nas Little, Keon Johnson, a bunch of wings, guards that they could put together in a trade. Simons now makes like $25 million a year, so he can be the salary in any sort of trade that is going out. And then more importantly, they have a lottery protected pick that Chicago owns right now. If they make the playoffs, Chicago gets that pick and they can trade all of their picks from 2024 to 2031, I believe, maybe 32, depending on this offseason. I think it's 31 though. So they have all of those picks what's that?
Do you think they want to keep that pick or lose that pick?
See, that's where I've been trying to figure out.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've been operating that I think they want to keep it, but now because I would think that, well, you could go to the Bulls and try to offer them
a second or something to remove the protection.
Or something to remove the protections, but I wonder if I would go for that if I'm the Bulls, because that's a lot to, like.
And keep in mind, 2024 supposed to be the worst draft in years. So if that's the case, the Bulls are like, hold on, you want me to take your pick when you're trading for a star player?
Exactly. Yeah.
In a shitty draft.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So that would worry me a little bit if I'm the Bulls. So you might almost be better off being in the lottery this year, making the playoffs this year, having that pick convey to the Bulls. Maybe it's the 17th pick or whatever. Then you have all your picks you can trade and you don't have to worry about it. And the Bulls just get the 17th pick and you have the freedom to move your picks. The other way is what we just discussed, which is that they end up in the lottery and the Bulls, they have to negotiate with the Bulls to remove the protection so they can trade future first. But they have this extra Knicks first. They could have a lottery pick in this draft. And then it comes down to talking to the Bulls if you do get that lottery pick and removing them so you can trade future out picks. Now, I've been talking, I know what Blazers fans really want because I've been talking to some Blazers fans. I know that the Blazers really want Joel Embiid, and I can tell you this much. I know, and Joel, I know you're trolling. I know you're fucking around. And I always say never read into social media activities from players, especially at the trade deadline during slop season.
Yeah.
Joel liked a tweet today that said from a Blazers fan that said, "Did you see that Dame performance?" and tagged him.
Can I say something about that?
Yes.
When has that ever yielded anything?
It's very, very rare.
A social media thing. By the way, you're acting like players are like just
completely
like
unaware.
They don't know that everyone's fucking looking at their social. Do you think their agent doesn't tell them that 8 billion times a day?
Yeah.
When they do shit like this, it's like, especially Joel, who is literally
known for
Joel Embiid.
Yes,
he's known for being pranky with the fans. Let's say,
yes,
it's like the fucking AJ Brown tweet when like all the like football guys who were offline were like, "Oh my god, what are the chances that he said exactly like the tweet?" Like,
yeah,
brother, you know he's referencing that, right? He literally put the fucking quotation marks around it. Like,
yes,
it has big that energy, like
100%. Yeah. And I'm actually speaking just from one like a month ago, and this is not me coping because I'm going to be honest. If James Harden leaves this offseason, which I'm still skeptical of, but there's too much smoke to completely ignore it and act like it couldn't be a possibility that he could leave after the season.
Yep.
Which every time I've looked at it, like we basically talked about the history of it, like LeBron and AD to the Lakers both ended up happening. Kyrie and KD going to New York. They went to the other team, but they did leave. Pretty much there are many, just tons of history shows that these things happen a lot where there's in the rumor mill throughout the year. Like it just kind of it is generally the case. Now, Paul George,
no sense. Is what's
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, and we've talked about this before.
Weird.
I still am skeptical of it because unless Harden's only thing is that he really loves Houston and the city and just wants to live there again, it makes no sense to me. But there's too much reporting and smoke around it just to act like it's completely nothing because every time we do this, it ends up biting us in the ass. The only time that it hasn't happened, as someone pointed out on Twitter, was Paul George to the Lakers when we all thought that was going to happen. And he signed an extension with the Clippers, with the Thunder, and ended up on the Clippers a year later anyway. So, like, I'm not saying that Harden is going to leave. I don't know. I would think that if the Sixers make a good second round fight or a conference finals run or a finals run, he will stay, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm not going to guess about that. But if that were to happen, let's just say that happens. I'm fine with Joel Embiid wanting out. Like the Sixers have shot their wad. They spent all their assets to get the team that they currently have. They would be out of assets. And if the star player wants out in the middle of his prime and you can get a massive haul for that, it might be beneficial for both sides. Like, it just, speaking logically here, I'm never in the business of trading a top 10 player because I think you always lose that trade, almost always. There might be some recent exceptions because of some injury shit and pick shit.
Yeah.
But my whole point here is that I'm not saying that he's not going to ask out to Portland because of this. I'm saying because Ramona Shelburne, who he's close friends with, went on the Low Post a month ago and said, Joel Embiid wants to be like Damian Lillard and Bradley Beal. He doesn't want to leave Philly. Like, he loves Philly. He wants to play there his whole career. Like, he's always wanted to do this. So, like, from the expectations of what Joel wants, I would be very, very surprised if he asked out after the season, even if James Harden leaves. Like, that's just kind of the vibe that I get. So if it does happen, it's either way, whatever. But, like, I think that there are a handful of guys that the Blazers should have high hopes for. Joel should certainly be on that list if they're trying to steal a star. Now, it would be funny to me that if after the Sixers had one, like, I think this is the best team that they've had in forever. I think that if they weren't in a conference with the Celtics and the Bucks, I would feel a lot better about their chances. And my long story short on this is that basically the like it would be funny to me if Harden went to the Rockets and Joel wanted to trade to the Blazers, who are both worse teams than the Sixers right now. Yeah. And I don't know if they would be even better if these trades are made. Certainly the Rockets would not be better. Yeah. And I'm skeptical that the Blazers would be and how long that would last and whatever. But long story short on this, there's a handful of guys that they could go after this summer. So I came up with a list. And I wanted to see, because think about the stars that could potentially be available for the Blazers this summer.
Okay. So Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Giannis number one. Him and Dame are boys, obviously.
Yeah. Going out. Yeah.
Jason Tatum. No.
Well, look, our women are sexy in Portland, and Giannis is a sex addict. So
that's a joke.
That's a joke. Joke. Is it? It's a joke.
To be fair, he's a sex addict only for his wife.
Only for his wife. Yeah. However, if she wanted to become poly, there's no better place in the world to become poly than Portland.
So yes, and Giannis and Dame are boys. Just keep it in mind. No, but in all seriousness, the more realistic targets. Obviously, I think Joel Embiid is out of reach. I don't think that he's going to ask for a trade. I think that there are certain guys that could be available this summer that are they just don't fit with Damian Lillard. Like Karl Anthony Towns defensively, I don't think you could survive that. Now, would they be a fun competitive team? Yes. Yes, they would be an amazing offensive team. 100%. I don't disagree there.
If you could dump Nurkic in that deal, I kind of like that, to be honest. But that's the thing, is can you dump Nurkic in that deal?
But are you going to use everything you have to get Karl Anthony Towns and pay him and Damian Lillard $110 million a year or whatever?
Pretty good start. It's a pretty good start. Like I don't know. I know Cat is like insane, but like I don't know. Like if you get like a normal center to go with them, that's not like Rudy Gobert or something like that.
Well, they would also have Jeremy Grant, who complements Karl Anthony Towns pretty well defensively. Like put him at the 4 and you got something to work with for sure. Because I think they're going to bring back Jeremy Grant, which is the other part of this. They might overpay him a little bit, but I think that he will be back on the team next year. And then it's like, all right, you have Grant, Dame, and Star X. You have a really good team, and you can compete in the Western Conference for at least 2 or 3 years. Yeah. So the other stars I had on here, I didn't think that Karl Anthony Towns was a fit. We obviously know Trae Young would never be a fit if Trae's available this summer. Because the defense just is not a good fit with Dame. Like we know how small guards go with Dame. Like we've seen it with much worse small guards in CJ McCollum and Anthony Simons, and it's just not going to be sustainable in the playoffs. So the guys that I had on my list, and so I have my unreachable stars, which I think is Embiid, the slightly more realistic stars I have on here. My number 2 was actually Anthony Davis.
Okay.
And I don't know if the Lakers are going to fall apart now. I think the Lakers might just be competitive enough for the rest of the season and say, why are we trading AD? Maybe we can get Kyrie or we can get Draymond or we can get someone this summer that will make us good enough next year. Or we'll just bring back the guys we have and continue to build through, free agency in the draft and hope that the team's good enough. And can stay healthy enough to be a competitive team in the Western Conference. Maybe they just say, fuck trading AD. So he was in my realistic, but still might be a little bit crazy tier. And then I had 2 guys who I actually think are fairly realistic, and it's pretty much completely dependent on how the stars feel and how much their season basically goes to shit with their current teams. Which the more realistic ones for me were Jimmy Butler and Paul George.
Jimmy Butler, for sure. And I was going to bring up like Kawhi or someone like that. Like, because the Clippers, something's not, we talked about this last episode. I don't like the Clippers vibes. They feel fucked up. Let me just put it that way. Like, they feel real fucked up. And I wonder, so the Jimmy one, well, let's start with the Jimmy one, because that one's interesting.
Yes.
Do you think he could, because the thing with Jimmy and why I think Jimmy works so well on the Heat and their thing, he is a consummate alpha.
Yes.
And if there is a player on the team who is better than him or could be perceived as better than him,
yes,
he tends to chafe under that a little bit.
Yes.
I wonder if he could play with Damian Lillard.
So I actually had two thoughts on the Jimmy thing. One, just to address that, everything I've read is that like Dame is basically a locker room leader and like I don't think that Dame would be the one that would have the ego about it. Like I think Dame would be the one that could take a back seat.
I think so.
He would let Jimmy be like, all right, you can be like, and it's the same reason why I thought they could have traded for Kevin Durant was because, I think that Jimmy and Dame are similar level players, but like, I don't think Dame would I think he would do it because he wants to stay in Portland. He's making a ton of money and he wants to win a title there. So like, I don't think that he would have a problem with it. And I think that if those two could see eye to eye, I don't know what their relationship is like, but if those two could see eye to eye on that factor of it, they could definitely work as a duo. Especially, I think that's a great on the court fit as well.
Yes. Here's what I would say though. Jimmy is kind of like, let's say you're in a Celtics situation, game 7. You have Dame, who is like literally one of the greatest clutch shooters, clutch performers of all time. And you have Jimmy, who through sheer force of will is like a pretty good clutch performer, but it's also just, he's not very good at it, but it's just like not being scared. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I wonder about that aspect. Like this is a very Bill thing to like be like immediately have my mind go to. Like
it's true though. No, I think that this is the human relation thing that people don't always take into account when they talk about trades. And these are things that you'd have to balance. If there's anyone that is big, there are like 3 or 4 guys where I feel like if there was any player that was on their team, to me, it's basically like, it's like Steph, Dame, Giannis. There might be other guys, but like, I don't think that they would mind taking a backseat in big moments to the other guy, but is it the best thing for the team?
I just mean like Dame, I think it's like him and Jordan are the only guys with multiple series walk-off shots. Like,
yeah, he's had 2.
He's hit 2. Like,
yeah.
Which most like there's not even that many places where there's 1 series walk-off winning shot. Like, and he has 2 of them.
And Dame did it before he was him.
Exactly,
When Dame was the second best player on those teams, he wasn't even like the best. That was LaMarcus Aldridge.
Well, no, I think the OKC one. He was the.
No. I'm sorry. I meant the first Blazers iteration. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
But that's just like, because here's the thing is I do think it works from a basketball perspective. I think Jimmy is like, if you're not going to target a big, Jimmy's exactly the kind of player you want with Dame.
Sure.
I get why, by the way, they would want Joel. Joel and Dame would be amazing.
It would be incredible. We wanted it so bad in Philly. It would have been incredible. That pick and roll would be an amazing combo.
Incredible pick and roll. Like Joel, like after playing with Harden, could clean up all the the defense, and like if you could keep Jeremy Grant in that trade, like having an actual wing player to go with that who could like defend and do it.
Yeah. But that's the one that is like, that's a long shot. But like if you're setting your heights high, that's where you're like, we're giving up everything we have, including a decade worth of picks. Which
that would need to be the Donovan Mitchell trade plus Simons plus
that's like, basically what ended up being the Donovan Mitchell trade. We just didn't know it at the time. Where like Laurie's like really good. But I will say about this, if there's one team, and I'm not saying that, once again, I don't want to trade Joel Embiid. I'd rather just keep the top 10 player unless things really go to shit and he wants out. I'm not ever trading a guy that's a top 10 player until they ask out. But if there's one team that I'm looking at their picks, and I'm saying I'm looking at their 25 through 20, or let's say 26 through 2030 picks, I would like my chances with Damian Lillard, who's probably going to be retired for most of those years, and Joel Embiid with his health history, for sure. If I'm looking for these kind of star trade packages for return. The prospects don't do as much for me. I'm not a huge Shaedon Sharp guy. I think he'll be a good role player. Simons I like, but small guards, flawed player. And Maxey would probably be our best prospect along with Simons after that. So that's a little bit weird, but you're not really worried about that stuff if you're trading away your best player anyway. But the Paul, so you said Kawhi, Jimmy, to me, Jimmy is, I actually think that the issue with the Jimmy trade is that I actually think he might have too much pride to ask for a trade now. Like,
yeah,
he went to Miami, and I think that people forget about this a lot. Jimmy Butler has rehabbed his career so much that it makes people forget what the perception of Jimmy Butler was. The Sixers traded Robert Covington and Dario Saric for Jimmy Butler. And yes, it was only one season, but like they essentially traded 2 role players for one of the 15 best players in the NBA at the time.
Yeah.
And no one really thought it was that crazy because of Jimmy Butler's reputation at the time. Like that's the scenario he was in.
Yeah.
And now he is very clearly one of the 12 best players in basketball. Yeah. And he is someone who is way more respected for his playoff performances, for everything that Miami has done for his reputation as much as he's done for them. It's that kind of relationship. It seems like there is some sort of mutual respect there. Now, if they fucking lose in the play-in or some shit, that might go out the window. Like, he might just be like, fuck it, I don't care about that anymore. I need to go to a team where I can win. Yeah. But I think it's more likely that Jimmy Butler asks for a trade, or asks for them to trade guys like Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero to get a second superstar in there. Maybe Joel Embiid, probably not though. To have it, because you're in Miami. Like, you can get guys that want to go there. Like, we know that they have a history of getting guys that want to go there. And my thing on this is that I think, I don't know what the Clippers situation is, and I don't know what's going to happen there. But if they lose in the first round, and I actually kind of like them as a playoff team, if they can kind of figure some things out down the stretch here. Not quite as much as I did earlier in the season. I still need to...
Same. Yeah, I'm a little scared. I'm a little scared. I'm going to be honest. I'm going coward mode on my Clippers finals pick. Let me just put it that way.
But other than Denver, doesn't every team have huge question marks? Like, it's pretty much like Denver is.
Suns, I don't know. I still,
the Suns have question marks, but what are their question marks? The same question marks the Clippers have, which is availability and health. And like, that's a matchup that I don't think that, like, I actually thought about this. I actually think that it could be a rocks. We've been talking about the rocks, paper, scissors thing in the East.
Yeah.
I think there could be a similar thing happening in the West, where, to me, the Nuggets are like the Celtics in that scenario, right? Yeah. Where like the Nuggets and the Clippers cannot beat the Nuggets no matter what they fucking do, it seems like.
Yeah.
Even down to the point where last night, did you see Paul George hit he almost won the game on a 3/4 of the court shot, just like Joel. Yeah, the Nuggets missed a 3. He didn't get it off, and it was literally 2/3 of the court. It was almost the same shot Joel took, and he made it. And it didn't count. And then they went to overtime and they lost. So I was like, and I was saying the whole game, I was saying to people, I was like, it reminds me of whether it's mental or there's just a matchup issue that they'll never be able to solve with Jokic. Like, it's very similar to the Sixers Celtics to me. And I actually think that the Sixers and Clippers have a lot of parallels that are weirdly similar. But I think that the Suns can beat the Nuggets. I think the Suns can beat the Nuggets. And I think the Nuggets probably win both of those series, but the Suns can beat them. And I think it's possible the Clippers could beat the Suns.
Yeah.
Like, that's the rocks, paper, scissors in the West.
Yeah.
And then in the East, you have the Cavs as that team that's kind of lurking as like the lower seed that like maybe could pull off an upset. Yeah. And in the West, you have the Mavs, to me, that are like, maybe if they can figure out some stuff and Luka just gets like, and it has an incredible series.
See, it's the Warriors for me.
Yeah, the Warriors. Okay. Yeah. I'm just like, oh my God, Draymond's hurt now.
Yeah, if Draymond's out,
they said he's day to day now, but like, I don't know how much he's going to play. And like, I don't know. And like Steph, we still don't know his health status. So once again, everyone in that conference has a bunch of question marks, just like the Clippers, except for probably the Nuggets, who, as great as they are, just laid a fucking egg against the Grizzlies 2 nights ago, where I'm like, that's very out of character for them. And like, so what I'm trying to say here is there's no dominant team to me that just completely runs away with that conference. Yeah. And maybe the Clippers can just get hot at the right time, and Kawhi's Kawhi, and they can win a few series, and Paul George and all them, they stay. But if I'm looking at it from Portland's perspective and I'm looking for a star, Paul George, to me, because they got to shake something up there. I don't think they're going to go into full rebuild mode, but they could go into like soft reset mode, and getting Sharp and Simons and picks isn't the worst thing in the world if you're trying to do kind of a soft reset, or maybe use that, dangle that for a star as well if you're trying to get another star that might fit better with Kawhi Leonard.
Could I say another name?
Yes.
That I thought you were going to bring up? How about Pascal Siakam?
I forgot about Pascal Siakam.
Just in terms of like talking about Jimmy and Paul George, another similar type of player. I guess Paul George is more of a shooting guard, but like, you know, could he play with Jeremy Grant? I don't know, but yeah,
you
know, like that might be a little bit of a gross fit, to be honest.
The 4-5 would be a little weird.
Yeah. So, but you know, he does, you know, he is a star that is seemingly available. They took calls on him. Like, now are they, you know, Masai could also just like run that back and just be like, no, we're not going to. Yeah.
We traded our first round pick and we just traded.
We're just
I forgot he was honestly available, because the second they made that trade for Jakob Poeltl, I was like, they're in on just being competitive. Like they're back to doing what they did before. But a lot of that comes down to like what happens with Fred VanVleet and Gary Trent Jr. in free agency. Because if either of those guys are like, I'm gone, maybe they take a step back and they say, fuck it, we really should just go for a rebuild. We have our pick like top 6 protected or something anyway. So like, if we really want to tank, we can tank. Like we could just do that and build around Scotty and whatever we have left. Like they always have the option to pivot. Now, Sam Vecini said on his podcast that he thinks that the Raptors are going to go star hunting this summer. And I'm like, they basically can't now, because they protected that pick for the next like 5 years. So like they can't trade a first. So if you can't trade a first, and then you have like, what are you going to trade? OG Anunoby? You're not going to do a sign and trade with Gary Trent Jr. or Fred VanVleet. Like that's not really how star trades work. Yeah. So I actually think it's the opposite for the Raptors. I still think that they could consider moving on from Siakam in the offseason, but it would be an interesting fit for sure. If you strike out on your top targets and you need to make a move to show Dame, like, hey, we're committed to like trying to be contenders in the West, you could certainly do worse than Pascal Siakam, who's still like a top 20 player in his own right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think they have some options. I mean, I guess just that big move is like, but man, if they could get someone like fucking Miles Turner and they can turn like, you know,
the Nurkic contract just will make no sense to me ever. Why did they do that?
I have no idea. They should swap Nurkic for Ben Simmons challenge trade.
Oh my God. Well, the Nets would do that in a fucking second. Are you kidding me? The Nets would do anything to get off the Ben Simmons contract now. And
I'm kind of serious. That could be like one of the most depressing trades of all time. But like, I feel like both teams come out of that being like, what suckers? We got them to take that contract.
Exactly.
And the other guy shows up and they're like, oh, this guy literally can't play because in Nurkic's case, he's hurt. And in Ben's case, he thinks he's hurt.
Fully guaranteed contract for Nurkic.
That's so bad, dude.
4 years, $70 million.
They extended him, and I thought that like the old article refreshed from like the first time he got the 4-year extension.
You were like, what?
What the fuck are you? What the fuck is happening? What is that?
Yeah, that made no sense. Cronin's made some weird moves that I don't really understand, but my thought was that he was always trying to set up for this big swing because they didn't have a ton of assets when he got in there. But now it's like you have this Nurkic contract that, like, once again, if you could get off of it in a star trade, that's a win in itself. You might have to include a first just to move it, but like that's a win in itself.
Gerald Wallace in the Celtics trade.
Sure.
Like, that's why the Celtics got the pick swap, is because they had to take on fucking Gerald Wallace's 4-year $10 million. It was a 4-year, $40 million contract, which is like very funny now. But
10 years ago, it was like, I'm going to throw up.
It was like a $20 million contract. It was like the Nurkic contract. So it was like the exact same thing.
And the Blazers got Damian Lillard for Gerald Wallace somehow. I miss stupid front offices.
Can I have one more guy that I think is a possibility?
Yes.
Are we sure Draymond Green is not going to be on the Portland Trail Blazers next year? Are we sure? To steal from Bill. Zach? Hey, Kyle, turn the TikTok camera on.
Listen, I was going to do a Trump again.
Yeah, we can't. It's the same. It really is not that different. You know, no, like Trump is like wetter. He's like got a wetter voice.
Wetter. Like, oh God, that's great.
It's like a sloppier voice. Like
Slop him up.
Bill has a real
sloppy Bill.
Bill has like a dry squeaker, but
yeah.
it is. But Kyle, turn the TikTok camera on. I'm actually sure Draymond's going to be on the Warriors next year. And if Draymond's on the market, I think the Blazers should be very interested in getting him.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. I think that, okay, you put Draymond at the 5, Grant at the 4, you keep Simons, at least for the time being, because you don't need, it's a sign-in trade. You don't need to give up your big assets to make that trade work. Yeah. Because the thing is, they don't have a road to cap space.
Yeah.
They don't have but they could just get a first-round pick, or like what you could make a move work if you wanted to pay Draymond. Dame has been talking about wanting to play with Draymond forever. Chris Haynes leaks it like every 6 months. They're friends. Yeah. They respect each other. It would certainly be, honestly, I think that that's the most realistic one now that you bring it up.
I mean, what would well, I guess it's a sign and trade, so it wouldn't matter, could they get to cap space to just sign him outright?
No.
Probably not.
No, because they have Dame, Simons, and Grant. There's no way. Dame makes like $50 million a year.
Well, how about this, though? If you're not giving stuff up, why not just give the fucking Spurs picks and just, there you go. Here's Nurkic. Hello.
But how do you make the money work? So, you're sending out Nurkic, and then you're at Nurkic, and do they have any medium-sized contracts? I don't think they do. Oh, Nas Little.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, Nas Little's only like $6 million next year, so that's.
Oh wow, that's a really. I actually kind of like Nas Little. That's a great contract.
Yeah,
for the Blazers,
that is really good.
He's honestly.
No, there's too many cap holds. They've got Justice Winslow, who I think they're probably going to want to bring back. Matisse
Thybulle, Reddish,
want to bring back.
Yeah.
It would be very funny if they brought. I think they are going to want to bring him back. Reddish. Where's she? Oh, Shaden Sharp's up there.
I actually think Cam Reddish has actually been okay. I watched the one game and I thought he was decent for them. Not that I believe in Cam Reddish, but hold on.
I think that's a fit kind of for Draymond, because I think if Draymond went to Detroit and some of these other places, that wouldn't work. Draymond just screaming at all of these guys to be better. Wiseman,
he needs to go to a contending team. Wiseman. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's already done it once. Yeah. He's back!
God damn it.
I thought I finally escaped you.
Crazy guy screaming at him. He's like, no, stop.
So even if the Blazers just let Cam Reddish and Matisse Thybulle walk, which I don't think they will, they're already at $112 million next year. They could waive Kevin Knox and Keon Johnson and get down to 105. But
yeah.
I mean, you could dump Nurkic, but then you have to bring back Grant. I keep forgetting about Grant. Yeah, Grant is the one.
No, it's not possible.
Grant's going to get $30 million. Yeah, I was going to say
Grant, it would need to be a sign and trade, but if you give them,
it would basically have to be Nurkic. They don't want Nurkic is the issue. The Warriors wouldn't want, but if the Warriors are just doing it to save money, remove the protections from the pick.
If you make it a three-way deal, where the Warriors, because I think what the Warriors really want is, no, we lost Draymond.
What can we do?
I guess we just have to not pay $50 million. God,
$100 million in luxury tax.
Oh no, that's so bad. But I guess we have no choice. We just
our hands are tied. We have, and
really
by the way,
wanted to. He just had to punch Jordan Poole in the face. It's not our fault. We were gonna, but no.
And we have to do right by our franchise icon, Draymond Green, and send him to the team he wants to go to, which are our conference rivals, the Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I'm sure other teams would be we'd have to see what the offers are,
sure.
Or where Draymond wants to end up going, I guess, in this case.
I think Draymond would probably be open to, if the Lakers weren't interested, I think Lakers would be one for him because of the LeBron connection, clutch. Yeah. He stays in California, LA. Obviously, everyone loves to live in LA. Portland would probably be second, though. I think that it's a somewhat realistic kind of transition for him at this point in his career. And that team would be good. I don't know if they'd be contenders, but they'd be really good.
It feels like I'm forgetting like some sort of like
no, they're cool.
Sweep them and like Draymond says that like
he talks shit on the Blazers. He literally he basically didn't respect the Blazers at all. But I don't think that him and Dame are still cool from what I understand and like are like friendly. So to recap, Embiid probably out of reach. AD probably not likely. Jimmy probably not likely, but somewhat more realistic. Same with Paul George. And then Draymond, probably the most likely of all of these, if we're just being kind of more rational, and someone that they probably could get. I don't think that they could get like Chris Middleton, who's also a free agent. I think he's going to end his career with the Bucks, and then anyone else who's available free agency wise. Fred VanVleet, another small guard, like
fucking free agent.
What's that?
Yeah, yes. I keep forgetting Chris Middleton's a free agent. Like,
yeah, he's just going to go back to the Bucks at this point. Like, I really don't think. Like, I would be shocked if he ever left.
Yeah, Laz reselling kind of. Yeah, because I was thinking it's not crazy that the Bucks like don't cheap out a little bit and then just oh no, like same thing.
What can we do? Yeah,
same bit I was just doing about the Draymond.
Yeah,
like
he's declining. We're paying Giannis a super max now. Yeah. No, they're going to bring him back.
It's going to be a lot less funny when I have to do this for Jaylen Brown next year, but for the Celtics.
Well, did you hear the new CBA stuff? Did we talk about this?
Yeah, I don't think it applies to Jaylen, though.
It wouldn't apply to Jaylen or Melton, who are both guys that can't get extended right now. But long story short on that, if they say, hey, let's do this a year early, which they could, but it might not be super realistic, then they could essentially extend those guys because it would make it so that they basically can bring them back for 150 million of what they're current 150% of what they're currently making, which would make sense for a guy like Jaylen Brown, especially, who could easily be brought back on an extension.
Just give him full bird right max there.
Yeah, I think they probably would, but he's basically got to make All NBA, which not even Bill was like, I don't think he's going to make it.
Well, Bill is not a Jaylen guy, but
he isn't. But he's been pushing very hard for Jaylen this season, and he was like, "I don't think he's going to make All NBA."
The worm has turned on that a little bit. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised to see how much in the mix Tatum still is in MVP things. I was a guy who was really pushing because I actually believed it. Like the first
month of the season, yeah.
Like I was like, he's the MVP. Like but I don't think Tatum is on the level of Embiid or Jokic or honestly even
Giannis now.
Yeah. Like right.
Yeah, now.
I think he will still. He might still do the rip off and put himself back in. Like, I think if he could have a huge month at the end of the year and recency bias and everything. And if the Celtics are the 1 seed, I think he could still be in the conversation. But like the way he's playing right now, it's not. We're still in doo-doo ass Tatum every
yeah. It's like every other game at this point is like you don't know what you're gonna get. You know, he
exactly.
So
he really is Kobe. Like mission accomplished. He really did. Like he set out. He was one of the most efficient, exciting guards. He becomes a little bit more like Kobe every year in the league, in good ways and bad.
Well,
I'm leaving a joke on the unsaid there, but. Yeah.
Kobe is still best player on two championship teams.
Was he best?
Well,
won that final.
All right. If that's the case, I'll argue Derek White's your best player after you win the finals this year.
I'll have to do it.
I have some numbers here.
Yeah, I have some numbers here actually that say.
Have you seen the on-offs with Derek White?
Calculated rats are going to do this. Don't let them do it. They all know the real heart and soul of the team is Time Lord. Defensive Player of the Year candidate, Rob Williams. Boston Media Mafia. Let's go.
All right, let's get into the finals matchup draft. Because I do just want to point out before we get into this, it is funny that we're doing the same thing that Bill does now, which is instead of we just draft everything now instead of just being like, it would be cool if these teams if these teams face in the finals, it would be awesome. And instead we're like, no, it has to be a draft. We have to draft our favorite matchups for the finals.
Yeah, so whenever we're considering which Patreon subscriber we're going to lure into a dangerous situation and rob. By the way, we're doing that, by the way. We try and get you guys. We do a draft of which one we would like to. So like, for example, I pick Will first every time because he's the biggest threat to me. So
yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So that's the draft.
I hope he hasn't been reading Catcher in the Rye.
But it is funny. No, it is so funny that I was just talking so much shit about Bill, and now we do it. It's like,
and then we're like, oh yeah.
It is kind of fire content though. We've got our own fire.
It fits really nicely. And shout out to Owen from the Discord, who was the one who submitted this. He basically said, why don't we draft our favorite from an on-court, off-court perspective, legacy, narrative, all that stuff. The best finals matchups for this year. So you're drafting based on what would make for the best matchup and also what would get the most people talking and excited about the finals. So as we always do, I will give you the first pick in the NBA finals matchup. I think I know what it's going to be because we discussed a little bit off air. We think one stands above the rest.
There is a clear number one with a bullet. We also said that, did you say that these have to be kind of realistic?
It can't be like, honestly, and I think the Lakers could maybe win a playoff series, but I'm not putting the Lakers in any of these. Like, I just don't think that they're like contenders. So like, of course, Lakers Celtics would be really cool because it's like they're fighting for the most titles, whatever, but it's not that realistic. So I excluded basically anyone who I didn't consider a true blue contender.
So I think the number one with the bullet, clear, obvious one for obvious reasons. I'm not even doing a bit just because I'm on this podcast or like, pandering. I just genuinely think the most interesting one would be Sixers Nuggets for obvious reasons. Embiid, Jokic settling it once and for all, mano a mano. Two guys who've been accused of not being able to do it in non-Mickey Mouse style. Jokic did make a conference finals, but again, so jury's a little out whether or not that was Mickey Mouse. I think that would be really cool. And I think both those guys would take that like very seriously.
Yes,
and I think
100%.
It would be I do not think that is going to happen, but it would be if my beloved Celtics could not be in it. That would definitely be the one I would want to see the most.
Yeah, I think Adam Silver might kill himself if this is the finals. Yeah. And honestly, it's like it's probably just the fact that you have the Nuggets, who are an incredibly small market. The Sixers have more popular legacy type players like James Harden and stuff, but I think that he would definitely prefer guys who are more face of the league, like Giannis and possibly Tatum next, as the guys in the finals, especially because Boston has history and shit. But the Sixers Nuggets was number one on mine as well. Like, the one cool part about this, regardless of outcome, would be it would dead the narrative that you can't win the finals with your best player as a center, which has been the last 10 years or so, really, since I guess old version of Tim Duncan, although you could make that was Kawhi's breakout. So maybe that was Kawhi was the best player. Anyway, like the idea that is the case would completely go out the window. I think they definitely both would take it very seriously. I think it would be a great series on the court. I think there are certain things that each team can exploit. I think that it would be really interesting to see those two go head to head, especially if Jokic wins his third straight MVP. And then Joel is just like out for blood in the finals. And it's like, I need to kill him now and prove that I am the best center in the NBA overall. So, that would definitely be, I actually think that would probably go 6 or 7. And it would just be a really fun, entertaining one. Once again, I've said it before, I don't think that Adam Silver is going to be very happy about that kind of matchup when the NBA is fighting for new TV rights and stuff. But just from a on-court legacy narrative, all that shit would definitely be number one for me as well. So I have for number 2, I think that's very clearly number 1. Yeah. I think this one would be pretty cool too, though. And I actually had Bucks and Suns.
That was my number 2 as well. Yeah.
So you get the rematch for what people also might call a little bit of a Mickey Mouse year. Mm-hmm. But the teams are different. I think the Bucks are honestly, I think they might be better this year. Like, I would agree. If Middleton gets back to where he was that year, I think that Drew is better this year. I think that Giannis is slightly better as like a playmaker and passer. I think that they have more depth.
Ingles and Crowder, who are both better than whoever the fuck was playing for them back then.
Bobby Portis and they went very small with their rotation. PJ Tucker, PJ Tucker, So like they certainly have a slightly better team. Now, obviously, the Suns are massively different from the last time these two teams played. They got Kevin Durant. There's another wrinkle in this narrative battle that I don't know if you caught, but that same year that was like Mickey Mouse, maybe the Bucks winning. They also beat the Nets.
Yeah, with the foot on the line.
Foot on the line. Durant didn't have his two co-stars for most of that series. And everyone was like, who's the best player in the world? Was it Giannis or KD? That was the argument at the time. And then, everyone thinks it's KD, and then Giannis goes on this tear. They win the finals. Okay, it's Giannis. So this would certainly be an interesting one. Another interesting wrinkle for this would be the Jay Crowder. Jay Crowder forces away off the team. He's on the Bucks now. He's actually looked pretty good so far in his first few games, getting his feet back under him. That would be really, really cool. I feel like there are a lot of narratives here, especially because I think that KD and Giannis are I think KD's ahead of Giannis all time right now, but by the end of their careers, Giannis will probably either be in the same tier as him or pass him. And this would be kind of a feather in Giannis's cap if the Bucks win that finals. And it's like, all right, I've now beat KD twice in the playoffs, and I've done it as the best player on a team twice to be the guys, which is a very, very rarefied air to be the best player on two different finals teams.
Yeah.
So that would be huge for Giannis's legacy. And then if KD wins, he won't get any credit because he went to another team.
He went to another team. Yeah, that's just the Ozymandias, everything turning to ash in his mouth.
Yes.
Look upon my works and weep, for I once again demanded a trade.
Before we get into the next one, what did you think of Q Matt's argument? I don't know if I don't think you saw it in the DM, but it was basically he was arguing. He's like, I don't think that this Suns team is much better than the Nets team that KD forced the trade from when they had Kyrie.
It's just so hard. I mean, so is Claxton a better player than Ayton? It's probably not overall, but he's definitely a better defender. And that's probably what's more important if you have a team with Devin Booker and, everybody else. So, I mean, is it you? I know Chris Paul is washed, but Chris Paul at least fucking knows how to play basketball and still has that. And he still has that gear and everything else. And I do think Devin Booker is a much better player than Kyrie. I know Kyrie has his fans. I know he's very good, but when it comes to winning in the playoffs and stuff like that, I don't know.
Lack of off the court distractions is the big difference for me too. I think you could probably argue Kyrie's I don't know, the 18th best player in the NBA, the 20th best player in the NBA. Yeah. Devin Booker's probably the 10th or whatever. 10,
yeah.
And the gap between those two isn't massive, but you're not getting any bullshit with Devin Booker. He's going to show up. He's going to not have any sort of off the court distractions. And it's close enough for me that I think between that and also I don't know, you could argue do you trust Royce O'Neal, Joe Harris, some of the role players on the Nets more than the unproven guys in the Suns? Yeah, maybe a little bit, but also Josh Okogie's been really good this year. There are guys on the Suns that I think can maybe scrape it together. Now, I would have loved it if they didn't sign Terrence Ross and they would have just signed a normal guy instead. But I don't know. I think it's close enough that you could make the argument, but I think I probably lean Suns because of the Devin Booker piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I also you want to know the other difference? You get to play in the fucking West.
Yes.
Instead of against the fucking Bucks and the Celtics. It's way different to be able to just you've only got Jokic between you in the finals.
Exactly.
That's a huge difference between having to go through Giannis, Tatum, Jimmy Butler probably in the first round at some point. You got to go through the Cavs and everything. I don't know. I hear everyone talk about how the West is better after the trade deadline and it's so much scary. The Suns are better. There's really no one else that I think changed their fortunes that much, to be totally honest, in the West. I think it's pretty much the exact same division. I'm not a believer in the Mavericks. I don't. Yeah, the Clippers got noticeably better. The Lakers maybe got a little better, but irrelevant. Doesn't matter. They're not real. Don't care. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's pretty much, to me, there is a sorry, I was looking at a Pistons beat reporter page to see if he had anything about Nerlens Noel and where he could end up. But sicko behavior. But no, I do agree. There are just too many question marks around teams in the West, whereas there are two contenders with a bullet in the Celtics and Bucks, and then another two that like have at least less uncertainty than the Western Conference teams in the Celtics or the Sixers and the Cavs. That like him going to the West is definitely going to be better for his chances of winning the finals, or at least getting to the finals. So yeah, I think that's definitely the case. All right, so with the number 3 pick, what did you have?
So with the number 3 pick, I'm stretching the boundaries of realistic a little bit, but just I think a classic rematch would be something the league would really like to see, and I think so. To Celtics Warriors.
I had that on my list as well. I had that a little bit lower, but yeah.
I think, I don't know. I just think Celtics, Tatum, league always loves the rematch. 2 huge markets. This is probably the last dance for this Warriors team, if all indications. And look, hey, if they could just get their other shit together, shout out to Clay, by the way, who I thought was dead. I pronounced him legally dead on the podcast, like at the beginning of the year. He's all right. Like if you could do that and then figure out that you have to play Looney and not fucking Jordan Poole, you could have something like cooking there, like a little bit. Like,
so I've kind of deaded the Warriors as contenders. Like I've just been like, you have to show me something.
Yeah.
But the fact that they already were such a good unit as 5 with their starters, and then they add Gary Payton, who we know is going to fit and is out for not 2 or 3 months as we thought. He's out for a month.
Yeah.
So if he comes back, and the hardest part for them is going to be the next month and figuring out how to survive these games.
Especially if Draymond is out for a long time. Like, yeah, absolutely.
But then you have your starters with Looney starting, and you have 2 guys off the bench at least you can trust in Dante DiVincenzo and Gary Payton, who can play up and can play kind of like a 3-4, like a small 3-4 type guy, even though he's like 6'2". Somehow he's just so strong and athletic that he can kind of play up a little bit. And then you have the more variance guys like Jordan Poole. And then you have like, the only thing is their front court depth is total shit. They really have no one beyond Looney, Draymond, and then Gary Payton playing up a bit. But like, you really only need 8 guys in the playoffs. And I think their top 8 when healthy is pretty good. Like I might, if everyone can get healthy, I might change my opinion on that. But until then, I'm going to stay solid on the fact that I don't see them as contenders until they can get healthy. It's totally possible they just miss the playoffs. Yep. So if they miss the playoffs, then this isn't even a conversation. But I guarantee you, the Nuggets, as good as they are, I think there's one team that they absolutely do not want to see in the first round, and it is the Warriors. And I mean, with the way Clay's been playing, I don't know what's happening with Wiggins, but you have like the Steph injury. Like, in theory, this team should be good together. I'm not going to trust it until I can finally see it, but once I do, I'm open to changing my opinion and saying that when we get to playoff time, like, they're going to be a scary team, and you can just trust them in the playoffs like you can't trust a lot of other teams. So,
yeah.
All right. So my 4th pick, we're just going to keep going until we run out of picks here.
Yep.
My 4th pick, I have the Celtics and the Suns.
Interesting.
The reason why I have this, there's 2 reasons, really.
One, KD and the Celtics?
KD versus the Celtics after last year. He gets kind of embarrassed in the playoffs on that Nets team. Has one of his worst series for him, at least. They get bounced. They get swept in the first round. He gets a new team, a new look. You get the fact that, like, it's either going to be one of 2 things. The Celtics are going to win their first title in forever, or Chris Paul finally wins a ring. So you have some sort of like legacy thing at stake there. You also have Booker versus Tatum, who are probably the 2 best young players in the NBA right now, other than Luka. In terms of like 26 and under, or however old Booker is. And then you have the fact that the Celtics also didn't trade for KD when they had the chance. So, like, if the Suns get to the finals and they play the Celtics and they beat the Celtics, then it's like, oh my God, maybe we should have traded Jaylen Brown and stuff for Kevin Durant because it's Kevin Durant. But that was one I thought could be somewhat interesting. I think that those teams match up pretty evenly. I think that the Celtics would have I think the Celtics have a higher two-way ceiling, but the offensive ceiling for the Suns is just bonkers to think about. So that's certainly one matchup that I wouldn't hate. And I also think that one would actually be, if you're Adam Silver, you're probably pulling for that kind of finals. Because you have, everyone knows Kevin Durant. Everyone. He's one of the most famous players of all time.
Yeah.
You can market Booker and Tatum as the next two big young stars. And then you also have recognizable guys across the board. Jaylen Brown, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton was the number one pick. Like, Al Horford's been around forever. So, like, if you're looking from a ratings perspective, Boston's a legacy franchise in a big market. Phoenix is always been, like, the fact that they've never won a title is actually kind of insane. Dude, they've had one of the most successful histories. I was looking back at finals from the 70s. They were in the finals. The 90s, they were in the finals. A few years ago, they were in the finals. They had those Steve Nash teams. They had the Charles Barkley teams. Like, they've had some of the most successful teams in the history of the NBA, just like consistency-wise, and they've never won a finals. It would be their first finals ever. Like, that would be really cool.
I'd argue they had one of the 5 most important teams in NBA history with the 7 seconds or less team. Like, it's like one of the most iconic. It's like them, the Bad Boys, the Detroit Bad Boys, and then like Showtime and like Bird, and then that's like. And then like the Heat, like the
probably the most iconic to never win a title, and the most influential of any offense ever.
Yeah, ever. Yeah, like probably definitely the most influential team that never won a title. Yeah.
I mean, they basically changed basketball.
Yeah,
that's the way that we play now is basically derivative of that style. So like the Warriors and shit. They just did it with a better version of Steve Nash, basically.
Exactly.
So yeah, that was my pick for the number 4 pick. Do you have any others that you have? Because I have a few more that are kind of fringe.
I was gonna say I have a long shot one. I hate to make it a third Celtics pick in a row, but just
I think it's 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Oh no, we didn't have. We have Bucks Suns for the PSA.
Yeah. So it's a third Celtics pick in a row, but. I mean, Celtics Mavericks would be kind of fun just because you have Tatum and Luka are kind of rival-y. Like, they're the same age group, and like 2 guys are always in the MVP consideration. I think most people consider Luka a lot better, but Tatum's had like more team success. So like, like a very interesting thing there. And then, Kyrie having to play in the finals in Boston, like ridiculous.
I didn't even think of Kyrie.
Yeah, ridiculous because they just won't. They won't make that. But just an interesting wrinkle to like say the least. That's about where we're at in this list. Is just Luka versus Tatum.
Tatum as the headliner. I agree.
Kyrie Spice. Yeah,
that would be. Oh my God, another Kyrie series for the third. That would be the 3rd straight year, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
No, wait.
21, 22, and 23. He's played against the Celtics in the playoffs. He played
True. Yeah.
The Harden, the only series they ever played in.
Yeah.
And then last year they reversed it and they swept them. And then you would have that would actually be really funny if he just ended up playing them every single year in the playoffs. But yeah, I'm not sure that one's super realistic, but once again, I'm not counting out the Mavericks until I know that Luka Doncic isn't Luka Doncic. So okay, so next one on my list, I already had most of these. I didn't have that one, but that's a good one. I'm picking between 2 here. I'll go. This one might not be that crazy, but Bucks Clippers would be interesting to me only because Giannis and Kawhi had that match in 2019. Kawhi got the best of Giannis.
Yeah.
I think Giannis is better than him now. It's kind of like a redemption type thing for Giannis where, he could kind of go up against a guy who knocked him off at one point when he was on the Raptors. It's not, I just think from like an on-court perspective, it would be a really interesting, just like two good coaches in Bud and Ty Lue. I think that it would be just really interesting from a style perspective. A lot of really versatile defenders in that series. It would be a really cool finals. I don't quite see the Clippers being good enough to get to the finals, but they're in that handful of contenders that I don't think you can completely exclude them from this list. So do you have any others, or is that the end of your list?
Yeah, that was pretty much the end of my list. I didn't really, I like squinted at a couple other ones. Like I like kind of looked at, what was it? I think I looked a little bit at like Cavs Warriors again, which is just like
a new crew of Cavs.
Yeah, I like a new Cavs Warriors thing. I looked at Hawks Mavericks, which again, not remotely.
Oh, yeah, Hawks would never. Yeah,
but yeah, there's just like
Trey
really
versus
yeah.
Trey versus Luka would be interesting.
It's just not that much. Like the it's like way more interesting in the conferences than it is. Like Warriors Celtics, like even last year was kind of interesting because the Celtics always played the Warriors tough. Like even when they were like a great team.
Yeah,
like, the Celtics broke the home win streak like way back in the day, and
the Celtics weren't even as good as like they became.
Yeah, that was the hospital Celtics, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Like, or no, it might have been the Jay Crowder, Isaiah Thomas Celtics, but regardless, you know, that there's just not a lot of like real like history matchups here outside of like Bucks Suns and like Celtics Warriors, you know, like those are the two clear headliners, and that you need something else weird like the Embiid Jokic thing. Man, that would be so fun. I mean,
that would be.
If the Celtics do lose, I can't watch Giannis just do the I love smoothie. Like, I need the to absolutely just be Joel and destroying Jokic.
I was gonna say I gotta say I might have kind of jinxed it. I think I slept way too hard on the Bucks to start this year, and now. Look, they are tryhards, and this is the part of the season where the tryhards really shine, but they've been awesome for like a month, and unfortunately we might get a month of Giannis drinking smoothies and all that. I actually have two of my final ones here. I actually had Bucks Nuggets, mostly because of the Jokic versus Giannis thing, because
that's like the B version of the Embiid Jokic thing. Yeah.
And it's more like these guys have actually both won MVPs.
Yeah.
It's more like if Jokic wins a third, or if Giannis wins this year, which I actually think that it would probably be Jokic just based on the straw poll and shit that Tim Bontemps did. Yeah. But like if Giannis then went in and destroyed the Nuggets, then it's like, okay, maybe we should have given it to Giannis and everyone has to backtrack.
Now I am kind of rooting for that. That would be amazing. Like if the calculator boys got kind of put in their place, like a little bit about that. That would actually be kind of amazing.
That's what is like, especially because the narrative around that third Giannis year was like you can't give it to him till he wins the finals.
Somebody actually dug up the Zach clip of him like concern trolling about giving it to Giannis when he hadn't won a title yet, and I was.
That was only 2 years ago. It broke my brain when I saw that.
Yeah. No, I remembered that because I remember thinking that was a stupid reason then. Yep. And now he's so mad at everyone for saying that about Jokic too. I was like, brother, we can like look up the audio. I'm not going to do it because I have better things to do. But
sure.
I could comb through. I remember running down First Avenue, doing my little loop and just being fuming mad. I almost got hit by a fucking taxi because I just
this is so dumb.
I ran out into like 52nd Street there. First Avenue.
The argument that I've seen from some people is, well, if it was stupid when it was for Giannis, why wouldn't we just buck the trend now, basically, and say, let's just stop caring about how many guys get multiple MVPs in a row and just start giving it to the guy who we think deserves it, which the media thinks Jokic does.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I don't know. That's that. Whatever. I'm not going to talk about MVP anymore. It's giving me fucking psycho mode again. Yeah. And then the last one I had on here was just I had Sixers Clippers, mostly because Doc Rivers, Ty Lue, the Sixers and the Clippers have kind of both been like they've, as I said earlier in the episode, parallels of each other, just constantly shitting the bed, doing dumb things, wrong things, having a lot of success.
That finals would be a stoppable force meets a movable object, like it would be the opposite of inertia, like spontaneous, which team could have, which fan base is more cursed off? Like,
yes,
it would be a very interesting thing to see.
And you would have the Kawhi shot revenge potential for the Sixers.
Oh, I forgot about that. The Kawhi aspect, yeah.
And you also, and it goes a little bit deeper here, you also have Paul George and James Harden, who both have been clowned throughout their whole career for throwing up on themselves in big games. So you would have two guys like that have an opportunity to kind of redeem themselves at the highest level. And you would have, I just think that there would be a good amount of narratives coming out of that. Also, just think it would be a good series.
Two fan bases going head to head on who can scream at their coach for fucking up their rotations.
Yes, more exactly. And and one's a disciple of the other one, like worked under. Yeah, so fucking funny. Yeah,
I gotta say, it looks like Clippers fans have really turned on Ty Lue. I have seen some upsetting photoshops of him as famous evil figures, let's say, in history.
Oh my god, I didn't even see that. You know what? It's so funny because they do this, and I understand being frustrated by your coach. Yeah. I still have faith in a playoff series. He'll be able to. It's just not something that I worry about when you get to the playoffs. He does
not have the Doc Rivers storied history.
Exactly. He has the opposite. He makes, if anything, he might over-adjust. And that would be more of an issue for me. But yeah, he's won the finals, been back to the conference finals since with a team that was injured, didn't have Kawhi. I just want to say, though, someone just said in the comments, Harden or Westbrook gets their first ring as well in this scenario. So there's that element as well, because I forgot Westbrook was on the Clippers. So a lot of narratives in that one as well, and a lot of legacy shit on the line. And last thing here, if the Sixers lose, the process was a failure, and if the Clippers lose, that means that the Paul George trade and going all in on Kawhi was a failure. So those will be the narratives that come out on the other end. And then Russillo will be like, well, look, they got to the finals.
Yeah. I mean, look. God, I love Russillo. I hope if these guys ever, because I'm sure they would despise us if they ever heard an episode. But if anybody's ever showing them the episode, you have a duty to explain to them that we love them.
Yes, 100%.
It's like a family member.
Exactly.
Really well.
Yeah. Russillo's like my conservative uncle. We don't really talk.
Yeah, we don't really talk. He hates me for my lifestyle and just the way I am, but Russillo rules.
Because I'm using my podcast to brainwash people and teachers.
I think Russillo is one of our most interesting. He has one of the most interesting psyches, because Bill has just a pretty standard Boston guy psyche with Rich lumped on top of it, where it's now he's got a fascination with Simply Safe. And by the way, I do love Bill doing reads for Levi's now and talking about how it's every iconic butt from 90210 wore these jeans, and I'm like, let's go, Bill. This is
90s pervert shit.
He was born
saying hubba hubba and his woo awooga.
Yeah. Bill was born to make that read.
There was one I heard on the podcast today that I was kind of groggy when I was listening, and he was like, this episode is presented to you by Future. And I was like, the rapper? The superhero song just comes on and turns into a superhero. Yeah.
Do you need help being more misogynistic? I'm a break your heart. Don't worry. Future's got your back. Lots of tracks here. Nephew Kyle taught me all about them. Russillo went through a Future phase, didn't you? I mean, look. Listen, I could tell a story, okay? So I was doing radio out in Boston. I had the 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. shift, one of the most prestigious. And I worked hard, man. I would sleep under my desk. I didn't have an apartment at the time. And this was just kind of what you did, right? You had to get your lumps in. You had to make that sort of adjustment. So anyway, I'm thinking about proposing to my girlfriend of. So I go to her family's paintball game and everyone was wearing little like masks of me. Turns out they hated me. They hated me, and I didn't know this at the time. But like, you know, but after the game, I like saw her uncle, and I was like, okay, let's link up. Like, what's the deal? I like talked to him. And yeah, this was a couple of nights after I saw Damian Lillard in Noble. Yeah, and I talked to him. I went over to him and I talked to him, and I said, like, what's the deal? That's my favorite part of the Russillo stories, is you just always talking about like where he was at. He's such a little scene,
he loves to drop in the No, listen. Everyone always loves to bring up when they're talking about their favorite future projects. It's Dirty Sprite 2, 56 Nights, of course, the classics, right? Honestly, I'm personally more of the Wizard guy. I don't know if you've ever listened to that one. It's one of my favorite. I think it's just a really slept on record. Really great post. I've been doing a deep future dive recently. You know, I've been thinking about X's. He just like knows a ton of future.
I mean, like, look, we all know the classics, right? But like, how many times do I got to hear about fucking Molly and Percocet?
We get it. We took the mask off, okay?
Mask off. I get it. I feel like Drake kind of broke this, right? Like when they did the collab album, I feel like that was kind of it.
That was definitely the last time that I really took Future really seriously as an artist. No, someone said that he actually did say on a podcast recently that he was like, I've been on a real Nas kick recently. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, that's perfect. No, that's amazing. That is the absolute perfect rapper that like Russillo would listen to. Like,
and he talked about like being on this Nas kick, and he's like, he literally talked about it. Someone pointed out he talks about it the same way that he talks about sports, because he goes back and he's like, you know, like you have all your classic Nas tracks, Illmatic, It Was Written, that kind of stuff. And then you get like some that you're just like, this is the same guy? Like the ceiling for him was incredibly high, but the floor was so low when you're getting those mid-career Nas albums that you're like, how is this the same guy?
It's like, I mean, like, and, you know, people want to talk about some of this, and it's like, you know, I'm watching his Hennessy ads, and like, people are like, who is this guy? And I'm like, okay. That's one of my favorite Russillos, the bitchy okay,
like what are we talking about here? The guy made God's Son. Like,
God, I think what I love about them is they like about Bill and Russillo is they are like both like hyperly masculine, but also extremely feminine in like a stereotypical way, just in terms of like the bitchiness, like not an actually feminine way, but like the stereotype. It's like, oh,
sure,
you know, like whatever. And these guys just go all in, like just being mean and catty and like talking about, like they really are like a literal half step from Trump. Like I think that's just what being rich does to you.
Yeah, and also I swear I've said it before. It's being raised by boomers, but not being millennials. Like like it's like you're caught in between the two, and you still have these boomer values installed in you. Yeah. But you're jaded about everything. Like it is the guy that grew up and was like in their teens and 20s in the 90s. Like it is a very specific kind of person that only like those two just like completely embody it.
I love the working hard, like busting my ass story.
I grind. And it is funny because like as far as even though Russillo was born on Martha's Vineyard, but
yeah.
Which, by the way, I looked it up. Actually, the people that live in Martha's Vineyard aren't rich. It's like the people that visit Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah.
So
no, it's one of those coastal towns. There's a town in Maine, Mount Desert Island, that's like this, where it's like very blue collar, but like everybody goes to fucking Bar Harbor and like,
of course,
and that's like, you know, where all the rich people have their summer houses. So it's like you're the people who like work there. You know, like,
so at first I was like, oh, Russillo grew up rich, and then I was like, oh no, maybe he just was like working class family that lived on Martha's Vineyard. But yes, it is a certain kind of Northeast white guy that that is in their 40s and 50s.
I was worried we were going to go under 2 hours there for a second, but luckily we clutched up with the the 10-minute Russillo future riff to save it, pull it from the jaws of defeat.
Listen, you know, Thug just went away when he was at his peak, dude. You know, like he could have kept putting out great albums, but you know the feds got him.
I don't like. Look, everyone gets a chip on their shoulder, and they want to talk about like Harlow, and it's like, can you do it for 3 years? Can you do it for 3 years?
I just want to see it. I want to see the longevity of Drake.
Like, look, I mean, this guy, who is the Chris Paul of rappers that he would like stand? It probably is Nas.
Nas. I was going to say Nas is one because Nas is always the underappreciated but always around, and like as like basketball nerds and hip hop heads all respect him.
Yes,
but like the mainstream never accepted him in a way that they did with the others, like Jay-Z. Exactly. KD or LeBron or whatever. Like, Nas after Illmatic, he never had he didn't have an album that sold 10 million copies. Chris Paul never won a title. The comp is there.
Identical. There we go.
They're the same guy.
That is so funny.
20 years of relevance too.
I can't believe that's like literally a bit we would have done. We would have come to that like he would love Nas. Like we just did without knowing that he did. That is the person he talked about.
Nas is the Chris Paul of rap, and Chris Paul is the Pinochet of the NBA. Jonathan just commented and said, "What has happened here?" I don't even know.
We went off the rails.
Yeah, we should probably end it. Let's be honest.
I mean, I will say, based on Rusilla's yearbook quotes, I bet he did love Pinochet.
He supported.
You gotta work, okay? I mean, like, come on.
He backed it.
Just show up to work. If you don't, you're going in a helicopter. I mean, I don't understand what the.
Oh my god! All right, let's end it.
Yeah,
before we get ourselves into more trouble.
That's fine.
Peace.